George Kennedy has been in a lot of good movies. And a lot of bad ones, too. Just take a wild guess which kind Terror Within is. Well, it was produced by Roger Corman, so that's all you gotta know. But actually, this movie is one of his better ones, honestly, even though it is another blatant ripoff of Alien. Let's see if the Terror Within is worth a watch. First off, two guys are hanging out at Vasquez Rocks, and they manage to catch a snake for dinner. They radio back to base about their catch, and this is when we learn that there's a food shortage. So, a fresh caught snake is like a fillet to these guys. It's mentioned later, but I'll go ahead and spoil it now. There was some kind of leaky test tube in a lab that destroyed 99% of the population. Some survived and were mutated into what this movie calls gargoyles. Food is scarce, water's drying up, and hope for humanity is dwindling. This is the Mojave Lab. There is another lab in the Rockies that they communicate with throughout the movie, but the situation isn't any better there. Anyway, the base loses contact with the guys outside, and they send David, Sue, and the dog Butch to go look for him. While out and about, we meet the rest of the crew. There's Hal, the leader, Andre and Neil, the engineers, Linda, the doctor, and then of course David and Sue, who just found the missing crew members. And, well, there's less mouths to feed, I guess. They look around a little more and discover a cave with dead bodies all around. But something's off. They're all male. What happened to the females? Well, there seems to be one left, but she doesn't go in without a fight. Eventually, they manage to get her inside the lab, and Linda can have a look at her. But something's off. She seems traumatized. What happened to her out there? While she works with the new girl, the guys deal with another problem. The gargoyles discovered their hatch, and it's only a matter of time before they figure out how to get in. Back in the infirmary, Linda gets what she thinks is some good news. The girl they brought in is pregnant, about 3 months along by the looks of it. But she doesn't seem to be too happy about it. A little later, Linda gets some bad news. The baby's growing at an alarming rate, way too fast, which means it's not human, and they're gonna have to get rid of it. They go in for an emergency C-section, and let's just say things don't go to plan. The gargoyle baby escapes and is now loose in the space station, underground lab. Sorry, I mixed up my movies there for a second. So now we have a little mutant gargoyle baby running around that has accelerated growth and wants to kill them all. The crew's gonna have to take this thing out before it's too late.
Damn right. Damn right.
The men split up into 2 teams, while the females stay behind. We can't risk the new gargoyle impregnating them. Just by splitting up, you can tell who's gonna die. You got an old dude and the token nerd. Well, they're not gonna make it. And then you have the main character who's teamed up with a black guy. I wonder which one's gonna die. Well, actually, it looks like David's in trouble. Thankfully, Butch runs in to save the day. But wait a minute, I would rather David die than the dog. Well, it's a hard-fought battle, but in the end, Butch is left broken and defeated, but alive. What was David doing that whole time? Just watching the dog fight? Come on, help him out, shoot the thing. Sue's seeing all this happen on the monitors, and she just can't stand around to do nothing. She has to try to help out, which is a big mistake, because just as they predicted, the monster finds her first. And, well, we'll just say it plants its seed. They save Sue, and all the survivors get a minute to catch their breath. We find out that, yes, Sue is pregnant, but they all assume it's David's baby. They are a thing, by the way. Even Linda says pregnancy just can't happen that fast for it to be the gargoyle's spawn. But Sue knows better. She knows what's growing inside of her. David and Linda figure out that the gargoyle travels around using the air vents, so they try to put a stop to it. But no dice. The research base is falling apart, and now there's almost no crew to fix it. While they're out messing around, Sue decides to put matters into her own hands, taking herself and the baby out.
Wait.
During the autopsy, they discover that, yeah, she was right, a baby gargoyle. It would have been pretty dark if it was human. Now it's down to just Linda and David to come up with a plan, and they think they might know this thing's weakness: sound. When David blew the dog whistle, it stopped fighting. Perhaps high-pitched noises hurt this thing. It's worth a try, so they record it and play the whistle over the loudspeaker. Sure, they can't hear it, but what about the poor dog? David heads down for the final confrontation. He shoots it with an arrow, which does nothing. The tape runs out, and Linda doesn't notice, giving the monster the edge. David finally gets away. He fashions a spear, but that does nothing either. This thing is truly an unstoppable brute, and he just tosses him aside. Linda runs in trying to help, seeing how David is pretty much screwed, and while it's busy with her, David lights the creature on fire. But wait, it can regenerate. Man, these guys just can't catch a break. Back to the air vents they go, their last resort, to lead him on a wild goose chase. They manage to electrocute it, but come on, you know that that's not going to do anything. They're going to need something bigger, something sharp, like a big giant air vent fan. An interesting way to finish off the monster. It kind of reminds me of what would have happened to Charlie and his grandpa when they drank fizzy lifting drink. The two finally get a clear transmission from the Rocky Mountain lab and decide to start heading that way. They make it outside using the whistle, and once the gargoyles come back, they blow the place to smithereens, taking out as many of them as they can. And that was The Terror Within. What'd you think? A pretty standard run-of-the-mill monster movie, even if it is a rip-off of Alien, and super predictable. But there is some fun to have here. For one, the rubber monster looks pretty cool, albeit a bit stiff from the suit. The characters have pretty good chemistry, and as far as Roger Corman films go, this isn't one of the cheapest, and there's no nudity in it either, which is a big surprise. The Terror Within did well enough to garner a sequel too, so it can't be all that bad. It's self-aware, this isn't gonna change anyone's life. They wanted to make a nasty, bloody movie, and they succeeded. Popcorn entertainment for when you want to forget about the world for an hour and a half. You can't blame a movie for that. There is one subtle thing you might miss the first time watching it. I'm pretty sure the camp they found with all the dead people laying around the cave, they had the exact same situation happen to them as we did our crew. Someone at the camp was pregnant. We know this because they do find a baby doll. Obviously they were preparing for a child, but when it was born they realized too little too late that it was a gargoyle and killed everyone but the women. Heck, it was probably the gargoyle baby that impregnated Karen, the girl from the camp. It makes sense the way these things grow from baby to full-blown adult in 10 minutes. Basically, the cycle repeats itself. Woman gets pregnant, gargoyle pops out, kills a bunch of people, grows up, and impregnates more women. A pretty efficient way to reproduce if you ask me. And that's what makes Terror Within so terrifying. I give it 2.5 gargoyles out of 4.
I don't think we should split up.
Split? Are you scared?
Yeah.